I found this article in the Telegraph. It's about Abercrombie and Fitch. But before I start talking about that, I have to say that by popular demand, I've moved my microphone off to the side and turned the gain up a bit. If the sound is not to your taste because it's further from my face, let me know. All right, back to Abercrombie and Fitch. It was an interesting article for me, especially as I'd never bought anything from that particular trader, so I knew next to nothing about either its merchandise or its methods. It was no surprise to me, though, that a clothes shop that uses semi-dressed assistants might have a small problem with morality. The big surprise was the tone of the reporters writing about it. Basically, when I read that article, I had the distinct feeling, as you charming colonials might put it, of being trapped between a rock and a hard place. So let's start with the premise of the shop itself. The company was, in the 19th century, an outdoors clothing supplier and was possibly the first to sell sports attire for women as well as men. And it seemed to specialise, so far as I can tell, I'll put some pictures up here, in tailored suits, wax jackets and tweed swimming costumes. Okay, I'm exaggerating about the tweed costumes. However, it was respectable and possibly a little dull, and started going downhill in the mid-20th century, and then got taken over and did something of a volte-face in the 1990s. And now it seems to be concentrating on clothing for only one type of sport. And to prove it, they started off not only using thin and toned models who appear to be in their late teens or early 20s, but it aimed its marketing at the early teen market, you know, the 14 and 15-year-olds who want to feel older and more sophisticated. So the business model starts off with a dishonest appeal designed to extract money from the most impressionable and, well, least self-assured of customers. But then the fashion industry has never been known for its morality, and the emphasis on toned young men that Abercrombie and Fitch also seem to have is also reflective of the tastes of many a dress designer. So an expose of what this reporter refers to as their toxicity isn't so much an expose, but rather a repetition of the bleeding obvious. So now we proceed to the writer of this article, Laura Craik, who starts off her piece thus: "It's no wonder Abercrombie and Fitch is out of fashion. I've seen its toxicity firsthand." Note the use of the word toxic, a word that is as fashionable, as mass-produced and as unoriginal as a pair of Abercrombie and Fitch jeans. She then goes on to talk about a Netflix documentary about Abercrombie and Fitch, which, according to her, reveals shocking revelations about the systemic racism, sexism and sexual abuse allegations that ran rife throughout the company as we, or our children, blithely packed our shopping baskets with its clothes. Well, to start with, that we might include her and her friends, but it certainly doesn't include me, as I couldn't afford those sorts of prices either for myself or my kids. I wouldn't be blithely packing my shopping basket with that stuff. But then I'm probably not middle-class metropolitan enough. The show, according to Craik, reveals shocking revelations, And that terrible piece of duplication is the first clue to her trendy metropolitan attitudes, which obviously don't include writing style. You don't reveal a revelation, you just reveal. You might make a revelation if you want to be a little bit redundant, although that isn't necessary. Anyway, onwards and upwards. It's just a sort of taster of the, it's sort of hors d'oeuvre to the, or an amuse-bouche to the meal you're about to ingest. So it reveals shocking revelations about the systemic racism, sexism and sexual abuse allegations that ran rife throughout the company. Now there's a stack of buzzwords, isn't it? All arranged as neatly as a stack of Abercrombie and Fitch overpriced t-shirts in mathematically precise columns in their fake oak Abercrombie and Fitch shelves. Said the CEO Mike Jeffries, "We go after the cool kids, the attractive all-American kid with a great attitude and a lot of friends. A lot of people don't belong in our clothes and they can't belong." They refused to sell plus size until Jeffries left the company in 2014. And oh, the final insult. She says, they didn't even appoint a diversity and inclusion officer until 2011. Oh, the horror. A whole company with no diversity and inclusion officer. Sorry, phone just buzzed. That's probably the diversity and inclusion officer telling me I'm being rude. All right, well, I'd say that clinches it. How can any company worthy of the name even function without a diversity and inclusion officer? So there you have it, folks. That's the state of our society now. A company that's so bad it doesn't have a diversity and inclusion officer. I remember reading, it was a sort of horror story, and it was about a man, it was set in the early part of the 20th century, about a man haunted by the spirit of an African witch doctor whose death he'd caused in some way. And after the witch doctor died, this man kept seeing the witch doctor's head instead of ordinary everyday objects, for instance, cooking pots or a mantel clock or something. But he knew, he survived these constant hallucinations for a little while, but he knew it was time to kill himself when once he saw the head and he touched it, and it felt like a head as well. It had finally his sense of touch had betrayed him. Yeah, I think it's time to close down our society now when we find an article in the Telegraph complaining that there aren't enough diversity and inclusion officers in a rapacious and immoral fashion company. Right, okay, well, I am Graniopteryx. I am on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I let you know when I've uploaded a new video on my Twitter, Gab and Parler accounts, where I am at Graniopteryx. And please like this video, share it, subscribe, support my channel if you can, and I'll see you next time. I hope you could hear that. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.